When taking on the role following our first chairman, Councillor Anne Addison, I was aware that it would be a tough act to follow. So many of our good citizens lead or are involved with wonderfully important causes and organisations, all of which make a significant positive impact on the lives of so many. Working alongside organisations such as the Great Community Foundation of Northamptonshire is super energising. I am delighted to have been able to highlight and endorse the great work of so many people and organisations that have mustered on through the year, such as the McCarthy-Dixon Foundation supporting those less fortunate citizens with school breakfast clubs and volunteer motivation, and individuals such as Teresa McCarthy-Dixon, Miranda Wixon, who look out for ways to help our residents with the most basic of needs and keeping them well fed. Neelam Agarwal Singh, MBE, and the Indian Hindu Welfare Organisation, and many others also link up all sorts of people through their regular weekly clubs, open to all, and the amazing Diwali festival. And WNC staff member and Thrive Award winner, Jane Parry, who bravely raised nearly £1,000 for my charities, the air ambulance in a giant abseil, quite a tremendous achievement and the scariest time in her life. Some amazing people. A special mention also goes to one of my local parish councils, the East Hunsbury Parish Council and Liz Carroll-Wheat, who are truly dedicated in keeping the positivity running through the community, whether it's through the highly successful East Hunsbury Seniors Group, local celebration festivals, including a giant Christmas Santa Fair, or linking up with the Abbey Centre in my ward. That's always open with doors flung wide to the surrounding community with warmth and generosity through the local stars such as Pat Johnson, who in her magical way has been organising phenomenal lunches, activities, fundraisers and celebrations for well over 40 years. I do thank our council chaplain, Reverend Dr. Ted Hale. Thank you very much again for joining us this evening, for your personal support to us and the local community. With great words of wisdom and hands-on action, together with his commitment to come out of retirement, absolutely caught you at the B&Q car park, it's amazing who you find there, and to support me in my role and help so many others in the right direction. Thank you so much for your efforts. In this last year, we paid our respects and said goodbye, as Father Ted just indicated. It's a difficult word, but importantly, to Queen Elizabeth II, having not long before celebrated her truly amazing reign of over 70 years. A sincerely dedicated and special person whom I had the great privilege to meet. Now that's a really tough act to follow. I appreciate we've all lost members of our families too throughout the last year. My empathy and heartfelt support goes out to all of those who have. We then welcomed with much fanfare and pageantry our new King Charles III and the Queen Consort, royally celebrating the coronation just a couple of weeks back in our towns and villages, and also at Delaprey Abbey at the big lunch. What a superbly attended full day at a premier venue with over 10,000 people enjoying the fine weather and super entertainment. I've also worked with the two High Sheriffs, Crispin Holbrow, DL, and the newest High Sheriff, Milan Shah, DL, together with our highly dedicated Lord Lieutenant, Mr. James Saunders-Watson, and the wonderfully committed, true warm heart of West Northants, Mrs. Marcia Walker, MBE. I'm not sure if she's here this evening. She's absolutely amazing. And I have to say, through a role of Vice Lord Lieutenant, has attended so many events with me that I'm sure that people think we're related. I am delighted to announce that we have finally, after a considerable amount of work and formality, completed the crest and coat of arms of West Northamptonshire, which is displayed here today. Work on this started whilst the council was in its shadow status, and it's finally complete and will be rolled out very shortly. I will leave the detail and the explanation to that to our new chairman coming soon, but it's an important step in our local and national heritage and recognises the strengths and historic identity of West Northamptonshire. Raising funds for my two charities, the Air Ambulance and Northants Search and Rescue, has been very worthwhile for the charities who have been well supported by many and sincerely appreciate the ongoing support which has jointly raised many thousands of pounds and linked up much human capital and seriously needed resources. Please do continue to support them. I thank you all for dedicating yourselves, the communities we each represent, and coming together at key and notable events. It has been a pleasure to meet you at the various events through West Northants that have marked the last 12 months, and my best wishes and thanks for his support over the year, deputising in all sorts of places to Vice Chairman John Shepherd. Keeping up the representation of the Council during the next 12 months, which is no small task and very much valued by so many, is an important role, which I'm sure he'll do so with flair. A comprehensive handover note would be the size of the Encyclopaedia Britannica, but I'm not going far, so always be on hand. My special thanks also go to my support crew of officers, both here at the Council meetings and at all the varied functions and meetings, including my PA, Selma, who has been diligent and proactive, sometimes wading through piles and piles of requests of all types to ensure that all runs super smoothly on the day. Colleagues all around have been very supportive, and I'd like to thank and highlight the presence of just one individual, if I may, Councillor David Smith, for his dedication to all the public services and community occasions that he has attended. I appreciate he has got a cabinet portfolio that covers some of this area, but I'll absolutely tell you, if there was a loyalty scheme out there, he'd be on a truckload of free double-shot caramel cappuccinos by now. Colleagues, it's with great thanks to you all for making me feel so welcome within the structure of office and outside that I now hand over to the next chairman of our council and ask that you give them the very best support throughout their term, which will in turn importantly support the community that you've been elected to represent and bring warmth and reassurance to many people. My grateful thanks. Thanks, John, for your help. Just one person who I haven't given an award to as such, but I'd like to do that actually today, who is here and who has dedicated himself enormously over 40 years to the services of Northamptonshire and West Northamptonshire, who is Roger. Roger Carver. Roger, as we know, is quite an addiction, without a doubt, and always carries out his job with flair. He's always to be found in council buildings, and at every event, I have to say, without him, we really couldn't have done what we've done for so many years and continued. So I know that Northamptonshire was chopped up in half. We had the best half, and we still do, and we've got Roger, which is really important there. I don't want him to feel left out, so there's some chockies here and a cup. Now, I do know that nibbles are the occasion, and quite clearly our team couldn't work without them. So you'll see that our team up here have got lots of nice chockies to carry on the meeting with whilst I depart. But I have to say, at the end of the day, I hope they're approved. Are they by Kath? Fantastic. We like to stick by the rules where at all possible, definitely. Okay, I think at that point, I'm going to hand over now to the next item on the agenda. It's item 1 officially. Marvellous. Okay, so election of Chairman of West Northamptonshire Council on officially item 1 of this meeting. Councillor Malcolm Longley, I believe you have a proposal.
Yes, thank you, current Chair. I'm absolutely delighted to propose as Chairman of West Northampton Council for this coming year, Councillor John Shepherd. So that has been the Deputy Chair for the last year. Now, I've known John for quite a few years now, particularly when he was in Daventry District Council, where he actually ran the finance for some while. So we've got a little bit in common there, John, I'm quite sure. And he's a very able individual. He's a pleasant individual, and he's a very intelligent man. He's got a legal background, but we don't hold that against him. He's very capable and will run his chairmanship very, very well. And I anticipate that he will be ably assisted where appropriate by his wife Judy, who is sat there in the back of the hall in a summary outfit, I would say, Judy, summary outfit. So, without more ado, I'm very, very pleased to propose Councillor John Shepherd for the Chairman of WNC for the ensuing year. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Longley. In that case, officially, Councillor Jonathan Nunn, I think you have the opportunity to second the proposal.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Very happy indeed to second this. I have also known John for some time, more particularly also through Judy, both of whom have strong public service flowing through their veins. I couldn't think of anybody better. John's experience, his character, his personality, and everything. I know he's going to make us extremely proud and keep us in order as well. So I'm absolutely thrilled to second this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any further nominations for Chairman of West Northamptonshire Council? Thank you. As there are only one nomination, the vote will be taken immediately. All those in favour? For Councillor John Shepherd become the next Chairman of West Northamptonshire Council. Please use your pads. Very much. Ms. Hanson. This is being carried at 67 yes and no opposition and 1 abstention. Thank you very much indeed. In that case, I confirm that Councillor John Shepherd have been duly proposed and seconded to hold the office of Chairman of West Northamptonshire Council for the year 2023 to 2024. Are you prepared to accept the nomination?
I am.
Marvellous. I declare then the motion carried and call upon Councillor John Shepherd to take the declaration of acceptance of office of Chairman. Congratulations. Good luck.
Splendid. Right out. Do the honours. Okay.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Proposition to move the appointment of the Vice Chairman, proposed by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Addison. Councillor Adam Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to your new position. Congratulations. I'm very happy to nominate Councillor Joe Guilford. Joe is someone who I've been lucky to call a local government colleague since I was first elected in 2016. However, Joe's commitment to public service goes back far further than that. She started her career in the public sector in 1999, firstly as an officer, before making the transition over to becoming a member and then taking up a career in the NHS to local GP's practice in Daventry. She is incredibly intelligent, hugely hardworking, and I know that she will give her absolute commitment to this role and be a credit to West Northamptonshire Council.
Thank you. Councillor Addison.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm absolutely delighted. Thank you. It's on again, sorry. I've known Jo for many years, and I know that she'll be a very capable and very dedicated Vice Chairman. She'll be a great help to you, Chairman. So I'm delighted to nominate Jo as Vice Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? No, may we then proceed to the vote? Proposition being the election of Councillor Guilford as Vice Chairman. Please vote now. Thank you. Votes closed. Same result as before. Joe, come forward. Councillor Guilford having been duly proposed and seconded. Are you proposed to accept the nomination?
I do.
It's not a marriage proposal. Sign the declaration, please. Democratic Services Manager will now read out the apologies received.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies are received from Councillor Jamal Al-Wahabi, Councillor William Barter, Lizzie Bowen, Michael Brown, Fiona Cole, Karen Cooper, Louisa Fowler, Dan Lister, Ian McCord, Emma Roberts and Walter Tarasiewicz.
Thank you. Are there any other apologies to be notified? No, thank you. Thank you. Item 4.
Councillor Gareth Eales.
Right, thank you. I think that's it. Do we have any declarations of interest? Thank you. Chairman's announcements. My first announcement is to advise members of the recent death of a former member of Northampton Borough Council. Frank Lilly represented the New Duston ward from 1999 to 2003 and was also a founding member of Duston Parish Council. It is our tradition to mark the passing of all former members of sovereign authorities by standing with a period of applause. May we now do that. Thank you. Well, thank you for the honour for this new job. I will endeavour to justify the confidence that you have placed in me by working obviously energetically and diligently in the role. Very briefly, looking back, these are indeed challenging shoes to follow. The inaugural and second chairman of WNC both served with energy and distinction. Some 350 engagements for the chairman in the last year, as he has mentioned, all but a dozen inside the district. I suggest that no future chairman will see 3 royal events and 3 prime ministers. He actively supported the many commemorative days recognised by the council and the events and activities by which the council welcomed strangers to our shores. Andre, the council is indebted to you. There is also another member of the council who has made a remarkable contribution this year, significantly quite a way out of our district. One of the members for Silverstone, Charles Manners, drove a truck with medical supplies to Kyiv, where it was taken by soldiers' wives to the front line. Charles, some Ukrainian soldiers are indebted to you. I also take opportunity at this annual council to pay tribute to the officers of the council. We have today 3,087 officers working for WNC. Whilst we members properly take credit for promoting initiatives, it is officers of the authority who deliver them. Despite facing additional strains of Homes for Ukraine, Jubilee, funeral and coronation events, and the cost of living crisis, we find that individual members of staff and teams are shortlisted for awards given by the Local Government Chronicle and Municipal Journal. Customer Services is a finalist in the large team category. The Health and Social Care Integration and Climate Response teams are both team finalists. 2 young officers are finalists in the Rising Star Awards. Mitchell Thomason of the Transformation team and Tiffany Diaz Delgado of the Customer Services team. But those 6 finalists are the tip of the iceberg. Let us this time stand for a second time and show our appreciation for the professionalism, commitment of all officers of the Council, combined with the recognition of the work of Andre and Charles. Thank you. Looking forward, in my year, I seek to celebrate communities and music. Both will be a feature of the principal civic event of the year, the Civic Service, to be held on 16th July at All Saints. In addition to the usual suspects, all parish council chairmen will be invited. There will be opportunity to celebrate their contribution to communities across the district. The service will have an enhanced musicality with a reception afterwards. All members, of course, are invited. An application will be proposed in your diaries. Those who reply to the invitation will be allocated seats. It's important, therefore, to reply, and please do keep me advised if your circumstances change. Insofar as money will be raised in the year, it will go towards the establishment of bursaries for talented children, members of Northamptonshire Music and Performing Arts Trust, a jewel in our crown. There's a prospect of a military event in support of the ABF. The musical theme will recur at meetings of the council. I hope to be in a position to invite members to come a little early to each meeting and be entertained, hopefully from 4:30. There'll be a reminder of that before the next meeting. I'm also hopeful of setting up a schools debating competition open to the 22 sixth forms in the district. Discussions are in place, and I hope to be in a position to publish details of that in the next few weeks. There will also be a chairman's award given each school term for the outstanding student of the district. Councillor Baker has already nominated an individual for this term, on whom I will report at the next meeting. I look forward to an eventful year. I shall, of course, be supported by my wife, Judy. She comes with some history, a member of NCC, as Malcolm has said, for some 24 years, including 2 years as chairman. Finally, I invite all those present to remain behind after today's meeting to take refreshments with me at the judges' lodgings. I suspect some members will never have been there across the road. The ground floor has been recently refurbished and looks marvellous. I will also be making a floral presentation to Helen Gonzalez de Savage, who will be joining us for that purpose. Is it the Council's wish that I sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a true and accurate record? Agreed? Thank you, I will. Do I do it? Who was that? A hand. Yes. Councillor Bagot-West.
Is it me speaking?
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me to speak. Last Saturday, I attended a wonderful meeting at Brackley Town Council at something called the Mayor-Making Ceremony, where our councillor, Sue Sharps, was elected Mayor of Brackley. I would like to move that WNC members offer a hearty vote of congratulations to her. Thank you.
Councillor Bagot-West, yes, you will appreciate that moving such a motion now is a little irregular, and I hope you'll accept the round of applause will suffice to mark the occasion. I too was present and was delighted to see the appointment. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And firstly, let me congratulate you on your new role. I'm sure you'll have a very enjoyable year. My question isn't actually about the minutes. It's something to go back to democratic services, if possible. You may be aware that we're not live streaming tonight, and I just wondered if you could find out the reason why, if possible. Thank you.
Yes, I understand we're not able to live stream for a technical reason, and that is being remedied as soon as possible. Okay, Paul, you say a few words if you wish.
Thank you. I've spent the afternoon trying to resolve that technical problem without success. However, we are recording the meeting, and the recording will be uploaded as soon as possible afterwards.
Thank you. Right, I believe we have approved the minutes. Item 7, update to the Constitution. This proposition to be proposed by Councillor Suresh Patel, seconded by Councillor Andrew Grant. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I add my congratulations to you as well for ensuring year? Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to propose this report. This has been going backward and forward for the last 5 minutes. It's been to 2 Democracy and Standards Committee, I think 3rd time coming to the full council, been to the cabinet, and this was from the back of the PALS report. I also would like to submit alteration which has been placed on each member's table. There's 3 alterations, they're all in red. First of all is alteration to paragraph 5.5. Second one is the recommendation for B4, which is the adding one more line onto the planning committee's resolving to the first meeting after the annual meeting to set the time. And the third one is the wording 5.49 planning protocol, and all the one highlighted in red. And with that, I think, pleased to propose this report. I don't think I can add any more. It's been, as I said, it's going backwards and forward. So pleased to propose this report with the alteration.
Thank you. Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, obviously, my congratulations on your appointment, and also to Councillor Guildford as well. We wish you well for the forthcoming year. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reserve my right to speak, but second the proposal.
Thank you. I'm notified of 5 councillors wishing to speak. Councillors Randall, Smith, Purser, Beardsworth and Harris. Councillor Wendy Randall.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We had the Plenary Advisory Service to give us a review, and some of that was pretty damning. It highlighted bad behaviours within the Planning Committee. And also there was the advice to reduce the area planning meetings from 3 down to 2. And that seemed, reasonable until we understood how that was going to be. And it was slicing Northampton Town in half, putting one half with the old Daventry District area and the other half with South Northants area. We feel this is really going to be against the detriment of residents. And I looked back over the last 12 months to see how many applications had been delivered through those councils. South Northants and Daventry both had 23 each, and Northampton had 67. So we felt as a group that it should remain as Northampton as a whole town planning area, and the other 2 areas merged together. Then we had this amendment come through yesterday, timings of meetings, and we've got this bit added on. Now, this has been to Democracy and Standards twice now, and that committee makes recommendations, and then we see this change. And I understand that this change is going to come about for the South Area Planning Committee, because there are members on that committee that don't actually want meetings to start at 6 o'clock. They'd prefer meetings to start at 2 o'clock. Now, we need to remember who we're actually serving here. Are we fitting in with the councillors that want to start at 2 o'clock, or are we going to fit in with the residents that need to attend these meetings? And it's not only residents, it's also councillors that are going to represent these residents. If these meetings start at 2 o'clock and there's a meeting every month, and somebody has a planning application in their ward every month, that will equate to 6 days holiday that they need to take just to represent their residents. So my group will be voting against this. Definitely will do not want to see meetings of a planning committee start at 2 o'clock. So thank you, Chairman. They are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Zoe Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo a lot of the comments that Councillor Randall has made, and I'd like to reiterate the fact that, for me, this issue around the meeting time shouldn't be a party political one. It should be a point of principle of public service. Doing what you've said that you'll do, sticking to what was voted in at the Democratic Services when you were kind enough to allow residents I represent to come and express how they're feeling and why this is important to them. And that's something that you should stick to, doing what you've said you're doing, working for the residents, not what's convenient for them, making sure that councillors can represent their wards, and making sure that residents can continue to have a say in what goes on. At the moment, none of my residents who come and speak at planning committees about the overdevelopment and the relentless situation that they face when they're trying to hold their communities together would be able to come to a meeting held in the afternoon. They're the only ones in all of this who don't get paid, so the fact that their rights are being taken away from them is really shocking. So I would really urge every member of the administration and opposition parties to think about who they're working for, to put the residents first, and to make sure they've got representation. We've seen tonight that the live streaming and technology has failed, which is something I cautioned against at Democracy and Standards. So if they're the meeting in Toaster and democracy through the live streaming and the Zoom meetings fail, how are residents going to make representation? We haven't thought this through, and having an alteration at the last moment with no cause for discussion happening outside the Democracy and Standards meeting where this is discussed was appalling, and I think that every councillor needs to think about who they work for and vote accordingly.
Thank you. Councillor Bob Purser.
Thank you, Chair. Our planning system is a vital part of our democratic process, and the public participation is central to that. So our meetings must be accessible to the public, both geographically, so meetings in Toaster will not be accessible to many people in Northampton who don't have access to their own transport. But in terms of time, 2 o'clock is not a good time, and that's why this council has set a time of 5 o'clock for its meetings here. So I think we mean to be I would urge members here to not support the move to give the committee the time I would have hoped that we would have had an amendment suggesting that the council should not be able to move, a committee should not be able to move to 2 o'clock. I understand that has not been allowed by for reasons that I don't quite understand, but I would urge the committee, should this vote go through, to retain the meeting at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sally Beardsworth.
Thank you, Chair. May I first congratulate you and Joe on your appointments, and I hope you have a wonderful year. I have to say I was absolutely amazed when I got this amendment come through. We have discussed it since the shadow board. The shadow board said that we must be available for the general public. We serve the general public. That's our job. And I think what this is doing is allowing a group of people that sit with a majority vote on one committee the choice that they might be able to finish earlier or start their meeting earlier, not allowing the general public to participate. It's also being held in Toaster, which is 10 miles away. If we care about the environment at all, you're going to get people travelling there from Northampton to make representation. I just think it's a nonsense. I just want to know who's in charge in the administration. Is anybody in charge that can hold these people to account and say to them, you'll do as you're told and you'll have a meeting at 6 or 5 o'clock so it's that you're available for the general public to attend. And I think everything that the Labour Party will say I will endorse, and I think this is a disgusting thing to happen. I'm really, really upset about it because it's been taken to corporate scrutiny several times, and it was the view of everybody on there that the meeting shouldn't start before 5 o'clock so residents can come and speak to if they've got a problem in their area or they've got a planning permission they want to promote. That's what we're here for, to serve the people.
Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Harris.
Thank you, Chair. It's going to sound like a bit like a broken record this evening, because I completely agree with the points that have been made so far. I think we need to remind ourselves that we had a shadow period when the Constitution was worked on extensively. We have made some tweaks and changes to that, but fundamental to that shadow Constitution was that meetings will be at 6 p.m. All councillors in this chamber who stood for election stood on the basis of understanding that those meetings would start at 6 p.m. Nothing has changed. So I would urge all councillors to seriously think about who they represent this evening and vote accordingly. And I hope the administration has allowed a free vote on this matter. This should not be determined by committees individually. It's fundamental. We represent people who elected us, and we should stand by that and make sure that meetings are accessible to all. I'm very concerned also the impact this may have on parish representation. It's important for members of the public, but it's also important to parish representation. Many parish chairs who often want to speak at committees also work themselves. So it's another group of people that we are simply isolating and not allowing them to have voice. So, fundamental point. Please think with your conscience, think about the people that you represent. Some of the other tweaks and changes in this document are effectively clarification points. This point in specifically was not agreed at Democracy and Standards. It's changed. So what is the point of a committee if it changes its meaning in between its destination from the committee to full council? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm notified of 4 more members to speak. I have been so far rather lenient on the 2-minute rule. To follow anyway, Councillors Hill, Sharps, Meredith and Bambridge. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I too would like to echo some of the concerns around moving start times to meetings. As you know, one of the key aspects that we decided in the Shadow Authority was that the meetings would be in the evening. And in fact, I clearly remember when the North decided that some of their meetings would be held in the day, it was one of the things that we spoke about doing better. So I'm really concerned that this may be somewhat of a slippery slope as well with other committees. And once we start moving meetings around, we could end up seeing this becoming more common across the board. I served on the Strategic Planning Committee for the last 2 years, and these meetings were already held at 2 p.m. Now, I would actually say that public participation in those was quite poor. Obviously, I understand that committee covered the whole of West Northants, and therefore it might have been difficult for people to get there, but there were some very big applications that came through. Well, I would have expected some public participation, and we didn't have any, and I can't help thinking that may have been down to the 2 p.m. start at times. So I think we need to be very careful about how we consider this report going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sharps.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on taking the chair today. I would like to say that the other side of this, resident participation has been mentioned, and I would like to say, as a member of the previous committee, and I will continue to be on the committee, resident participation and parish participation has been high. And it is for this reason I actually support the 2:15, 2 o'clock start. This is going to be unpopular, but because I have seen the amount of residents and parishes that attend, I will support.
Thank you. Councillor Bambridge.
Thank you, Chair, and many congratulations again. I've been on the South Northants Council Planning Department Committee for over 10 years as a substitute, attending many, many meetings and been on it recently. And the time of 2:15 has been used for, I don't know how many years, but certainly well over 10 years. And it has worked very well indeed, as Councillor Sharps has said. What you need to remember is that the amount of work we've got, and we're going to have more work than we did as just South Northants. We're going to be working with the town as well, and we're very, very pleased to combine to do that. And some of our meetings at Toaster, not infrequently, went on for 5 hours or more. And when you consider that we're going to now have larger number of houses to take care of, up to 200, that's going to mean very, very long meetings. And a 2-hour meeting starting at 5 would go on till 11, probably longer, because we used to stop for a tea break at 4:30 just to refresh everybody. So that ends up with people being stuck possibly around midnight, the middle of Toaster, to get back home again and walk back from the town in the darkness. It also means that the officers have to work for unnecessary hours, and it also means that the council has to pay overtime, and also for solicitors, etc., quite high extra charges, which should all be taken into account. And I feel that the distance mentioned from coming to Northampton to Toaster, I'd like to point out that when it was just South Northants, King Sutton and Cooknoe were further away than Northampton, so it's not a distance that's unusual for going for meetings. So there are two sides to this argument, and to be quite honest, I think that the 2 o'clock start is far more practical. People are fresher, the decisions are taken with more calmness, dare I say, and it's also fairer on the people. Yes, people may have to give up half a day's work to do it, and it's a sad thing they do, but if it's that important, and it's probably only going to be once in a lifetime for a lot of people, let's be honest. So I really have seen the advantages of this start time, and I can honestly say that it works very well indeed, and I'm sure when we eventually start doing it, people who've not seen it before will agree that it does work well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have 3 speakers, Councillors Meredith, Davenport and Stone. Councillor Dennis Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations on your appointment. It's very pleased to see you as chair, and I know you're going to be quite a good chair. Thank you for that. I don't agree completely with the last speaker. I think he's really on the wrong tact. I was served on Northampton Borough Planning Committee for 11 years, and also, we had our meetings at 6 o'clock, which was always very well attended by members of the public. To me, it doesn't seem right that you're having a meeting at 2 o'clock when members of the public will be working. Some people can't get time off. Their employers won't allow them to have the time off. And so, some of the planning, the people who come from the members of the public have got a vested interest in making sure that they can tell councillors what is actually going on. So whoever come up with this idea for 2 o'clock, I think are living in cloud cuckoo land. I don't know why that is the case, because the thing is, 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock is a reasonable time to start. And the last speaker said they go on to 11 o'clock. Well, we never used to do that. We used to have lots and lots of planning. You have a ceiling. You say the ceiling ends at 9:30, and then the officers take control of the planning. That is a sensible way to do it. So I would suggest that, and Councillor Harris suggested that we give a free vote to everybody, and I think that free vote should vote against this proposal for the sake of the residents who want to come along to the planning meetings to tell the councillors what's happened. And it also seems to me that some of the councillors, it's okay for them to attend at 2 o'clock because a lot of them are retired. So they can have the time off. So please, reconsider this decision. It's a stupid decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure members would agree. We look forward to receiving original contributions. We tend to be getting a little repetitive here. Councillor Julie Davenport.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to say that I see this as a stab in the heart of democracy. And the reason I say that is because I have residents who used to go to cabinet meetings But because they're now in Toaster, they can't go. Either they've got a disability or they don't drive. But it's much more important, I believe, local planning, because it directly affects our residents. And even more so, they need to be able to get there. And it just comes across, as I read quite a lot of this, is that we don't actually want them to come into committee, a lot of things. I mean, we've had that with HMOs, we shouldn't call them in, etc. So, yeah, my concern is people being able to get there and be represented. I don't know whether you could put on a shuttle bus or something, but if we want true democracy and accountability, then we need to be able to get the residents there so they can speak. Otherwise, you can't call it democratic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Daniel Stone.
Thank you, Chair. Frankly, I'm quite appalled by this, you know. We have got a democratic deficit in our council, and cabinet meetings quite clearly reflect that. We need to do something about it. We need to be encouraging our residents to come to meetings because we hear from them the impact of planning decisions and of development on their doorstep and around them, and it's invaluable. We need to hear that. So we ought to be doing more, not less, to encourage participation by residents. Now, the actual fact is, Councillor, lots of people go to planning meetings to object to development that's going to impact negatively on their communities repeatedly. There are some parts of Northampton that feel under siege, and so residents go repeatedly to council meetings to explain to the committee exactly how they're being impacted. It's really important that committees hear that. We are not here to serve the interests of a small number of councillors. We're here to serve the interests of the public. If the committee meeting has already I'm on that committee now. Nobody's asked me what time I want the meeting. It sounds to me as if a small group of people have made a private decision well in advance of the next planning meeting. That cannot be right. That is not democracy. It has certainly excluded me as a member of that committee from making a decision, and I strongly object to that. If we're going to have this ridiculous geographical nonsense of some parts of Northampton meeting with South Northants to make planning decisions, then for goodness sake, let's try and be fair and equal and meet the needs of the bigger authority with a bigger number of applications, and that is Northampton. Those meetings should be happening in Northampton, not in South Northants, and they should be happening at the appropriate time as laid down in the Constitution.
Thank you. I've noted 3 further speakers. I'd like to think that's the amount now. Vice Chairman, then Councillors Barrett and Hack. Vice Chairman.
I won't go over the public being able to access the meetings, but I have been approached by various councillors who are working councillors, and that by changing these times, it does stop them from attending meetings. We heard earlier that this earlier meeting time worked well for a decade in Toaster. Well, it worked well in my 24 years services in Daventry at 6 o'clock. I really think by changing the time, it does not enable true representation from the councillors to represent their ward members. Yes, there's a democratic element, but there's also the transparency of the council by having an evening meeting. And as to the costs, at Daventry, we used to operate a toil system whereby there wasn't an actual cost that officers could take time back. But really, I'm just speaking from the voice of the working councillors who've approached me to say, could we consider the timings of meetings. I have no problem with the dissection of the planning committees. It's the timing of the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Danielle Stone.
You've spoken, Chair.
I'm terribly sorry. I'm going the wrong way in my list. I should go down and not up. Councillor Harry Barrett.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've lost sight a little bit of the people to my left in that public gallery and those in the doorway. We're here to represent them. We're here to convey their views as well, okay? And Councillor Banbridge, when you made a comment there about just take a period of time off work, it's really narrow and short-sighted, and I'll tell you why. Because that view depends on who you represent, in what constituents you represent. Because Kingsthorpe South, I've got a high variety of people in my constituency who definitely wouldn't be able to do that because they wouldn't be able to then afford the cost of something. So we really need to remember, okay, who we're representing and why we're here, okay? And those people over there now are the reason we're here now, okay? So we've got to remember that and ensure that all our actions, the perception of what we're doing, shows them that we're doing it for them, okay? Because the chat I've heard, certainly from that side of the room tonight, it doesn't represent that at all.
Thank you. Councillor Inem Hack.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to echo what my colleague has already said. I used to sit on the Strategic Planning Committee, and I could say that the public participation was very poor and the time, because due to the timing, hence I decided to leave after 1 year. And my name is on the Planning Committee, and as Councillor Stone said, that I've never been asked, about the timing change. So I would urge my colleague and on the other side, the councillors, to vote against this proposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Nunn.
Thank you, Chairman. Starting with just to congratulate you again on your new position and indeed the Vice Chairman. And sorry for signalling late. I felt there were some things I should respond to. Wanted to hear the debate first. Just respond to a couple of points. We obviously, if I may, just to the Leader of the Principal Opposition, say we obviously asked for the PAS report. We knew we had problems in planning. We asked for it. We knew it was going to be bad. And indeed, it helps clarify things. Planning performance, incidentally, is creeping up quite significantly. That's perhaps for another time. The other thing also, perhaps for Councillor Stone, we did meet party leaders and deputies on looking at how this split and divide line would work. And the key thing here is the professionalism in planning, because the comments were critical of officer behaviours and member behaviours.
Order, please.
Okay. Critical of both member and officers' behaviours, so this approach addresses both of those. In terms of voting, our group, as I've said before, we meet in advance, we seek to find consensus, and then we vote according to that consensus. You've seen there is not such a consensus there this evening, so I suspect you'll see votes go different ways. I do believe that we're taking separate votes, though, separating the other issues and things that we need to get through from the issue around the timing of the meeting. And Chairman, I don't know if that can just be clarified before we move to our first vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pinder Chan.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd also like to offer you my congratulations for taking on your new role as Chairman, and also the former Chairman as well. I just wanted to make a comment. I wasn't thinking of speaking today, so I'm just hearing what the conversation that's taking place in the chamber today. There are lots of comments that are being made from the other side of the room, which is saying, dividing this room and assuming that everyone sitting on this side of the room doesn't work, doesn't have responsibilities, and are happy to change the meeting times. I'm a working mother. I couldn't start a meeting at 6 o'clock, so I think the dialogue needs to change. And there are some common things that we do agree with in this room. So I just wanted to make that point, that actually, we're all people, regardless of whatever, party colours we wear. And that dialogue about, sitting on the other side of the room, not understanding what our residents want, I think is just not acceptable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Order, please. Councillor Phil Larratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my congratulations to you on your appointment. As the leader has now said that we will be voting on the timing of meetings separately and that this will be a free vote, I feel I have every right to speak in favour of retaining the 6 o'clock start times across the area. My constituents, if you go to Wootton Fields during the day, it is empty, it is deserted. You go up there 5:30, 6 o'clock, and people are pouring home off the M1, coming back from the station, whatever. And it's those people who I am concerned about. They have every right to access democracy and take part in the democratic process as any other citizen. And the only way they're likely to do that is if the meetings are in the evening. So my personal view is that, yes, we should definitely have the meetings in the evening, and I'm going to vote for that this evening.
Thank you. The seconder of the motion has reserved his right to speak. Andrew Grant, do you wish to speak?
Yes, just briefly, Chairman. Certainly when one's elected to a council, one has an indication of hopefully the times of meetings. And in particular, for myself, when I first got elected to South Northants Council, it was very evident then that the meetings were taking place during the day. And whilst planning has changed and obviously less items do go to committee, obviously we do have to bear in mind that we do have officers who work here, and we have to have a finite balance between their time, etc. I think also that if we do end up with meetings exclusively in Northampton, the meetings would take place in Northampton. But as it's a free vote tonight, I think I can't say any more, but to say the item before us has gone through the various committees. It's been a good debate tonight, and I think we should just allow it to go to the vote, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Sirish Patel, to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think everybody is right. There's no one is wrong here. Whether it's for or against, every reason is right within their own sort of limit. We are not saying at 2 o'clock or anything. All I've said is, if you read the recommendation to the planning committee, the first one to meet at 6 p.m. after the annual meeting tonight, and leave it for the committee to resolve at its first meeting. So, Councillor Stone and Huck, you'll have the opportunity to speak. We are not determining that. But I will urge, can I ask monitoring officer if we can take this report into 2 parts, recommendation, because there are a long list of recommendations under 3.1, and if we can take that 4B, the timing separately.
So we've obviously set up the system to be able to take votes, and we've done it on the basis of the thresholds, which is the one paragraph A, then the timing of the meetings, then the planning protocol, and then obviously we need to vote on the whole report. So that will be the final vote. So that's the way that Paul has set it up on the system, if that's okay. So if we start with the thresholds, which is the paragraph A on the front of the sheet that's been circulated tonight, and the matters marked A.
Thank you. We now propose to have 4 votes. First vote on, which is motion 1, to approve the recommendations labelled A at the bottom of the alteration page, starting functions relating to, and that's going ahead now, is it? Yes, good. That's voted. So that is carried 56-4. Thank you. Clearing that from the system, we now go to the second vote, vote 2. Just wait until the system's cleared. Right, we now can vote on vote 2, which is... No, we can't. Please do not yet vote.
Couldn't vote on the last item.
Please don't vote until I ask you to. It does upset the system, it seems.
Thank you.
Right, we now can please vote on motion 2, which is to approve or otherwise the time of meetings at paragraph B4. Please vote now. Finished. Right, that vote is lost by 40 votes against, 33 in favour, and 2 abstentions, including me. We'll come back to the default position in a minute. No, we don't. I'm advised that the next vote is to... Yes. I'm advised that the result of the vote that's just been carried is that B4 is approved without the red writing. Can we now move to vote 3 to approve the whole report?
3 is the planning protocol changes.
Yes.
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 So, just the planning protocol changes.
So vote 3, please, is to approve the planning protocol as amended in red. Paragraph 549 onwards. Vote please now to approve or otherwise the planning protocol as amended in red. 549. Please vote now. That is approved. Thank you. 59 to 13 with 1 abstention.
Report with all those changes added.
The final vote is to approve, please, members, or otherwise, the substantive report with the amendments that have been added as per the resolutions we've just made, which is obviously to agree everything in red apart from the amendment to B4. So can we now vote to approve the entirety of the report subject to these amendments in red? Vote now, please. And that is carried 53-6. Thank you very much. We now move to item 8, sorry. Item 8. This recommendation to be proposed by Councillor Nunn, seconded by Councillor Brown. Councillor Jonathan Nunn.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the annual report that shows the political balance and therefore proportionality numbers and the group nominations to those committees. Happy to propose the report. Thank you.
Councillor Brown.
Happy to second the report, Mr. Chairman, and I would like to reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been notified of 5 speakers. Councillors Clark, Stone, Smith, Beardsworth and Harris. Councillor Paul Clark.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fellow councillors, I rise before you today to address a matter of great concern regarding my recent removal from all committee assignments. For the past 2 years, I have faithfully served on the Corporate Scrutiny and the Northampton Planning Committee, making valuable contribution to the debates and, unlike some, consistently maintaining a high attendance record. So, to my surprise and disappointment, I discovered my removal from these committees only upon the publication of the agenda papers, without any prior notice. This is unacceptable and shows lack of respect. I am confident that fellow members at these committees can attest to the value I have brought to our discussions, but despite this, the leadership has failed to provide me with valid reasons for terminating all committee duties. The reason offered to me was, I quote, "Frankly, your interference with the Sixfields land deal." Also mentioned was a decision to attend a judicial review over 2 days, prompting an invitation from the Executive Director of Place and Economy and Environment to a meeting. I assumed that using the word interference, he meant scrutiny. But that is my role, my duty as a councillor. Why have committees...
Order, please. Order. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome your presence tonight, but not, please, in that capacity of clapping. This is not a theatre. It's a council chamber. Please be silent. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Chair. Why have committees in the first place? They are not there to nod through important decisions without proper and thorough scrutiny. Also mentioned as a reason was an email sent 18 months ago asking some direct questions to the leader of West Northants Council, Jonathan Nunn, and concerning in part the chair of the Democracy and Standards Committee, Suresh Patel. Truly, if these are justified reasons from the decision makers, then I can only conclude that this is a ruthless attempt to silence me, to shut me down, a democratically elected councillor, from asking difficult and sometimes direct questions, and so representing my constituents and the people of West Northants properly, responsibly and accountably. With accountability, sorry. Many of you are familiar with the serious concerns surrounding the Sixfields land sale, as well as other questionable decisions that have been made. Time restrictions do not allow me to explain further here. We are, of course, still awaiting the outcome of the judicial review regarding Sixfields, which, if I may point out, we were to lose it, it would be disastrous for the reputation of the council, and in addition to all the previous losses and expenses, add a further cost to the public purse of maybe £400,000 to £500,000 in legal fees. So, with no just reason to terminate my committee assignments, I propose that I am reinstated on these very same committees. In light of recent events, I wish to emphasise that regardless of what transpires, I remain steadfast in carrying out the duties entrusted in me by the people of West Northants. I will not be silenced from speaking out and asking difficult questions when the public interest requires them to be asked. I will continue to fulfil the responsibilities for which I was elected, and I urge every member in this chamber to do the same. Too many from all political parties are too silent. It is vital that we work together and remain accountable to West Northants people who have placed their trust in us. Thank you. And I just apologise to you all. I have dyslexia and I'm reading from a script, so it's very difficult for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Order. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Thank you. Thank you. Please respect the council. Thank you. Councillor Daniel Stone.
Hear me? My group will be voting against this report, but I want to ask a number of questions, if that's all right with you. I want to ask if you think we're an equalities authority, if you think we're an equalities employer, and how you think that gets signified. So if I say to you, we have 30 chairs and deputy chairs, and only 3 of them are women, that suggests to me that we have got a huge amount of work to do to become an equalities employer. If I'm wrong, please let me know. The other question I'd like to ask you is, do you think it's a credible position to have where we have the ex-portfolio, the cabinet member who presided over the disgraceful position we find ourselves in with children's services, 10 years of failing our children? The architects of that failure should not be holding positions of responsibility that impact on children. For me, it is an absolute nonsense, and I couldn't quite believe it. I thought I was reading the papers wrong when I saw that the previous portfolio holder for children's services, who was responsible for closing Sure Start centres, who was responsible for taking out all the middle managers, who was responsible for the huge amounts of money that then had to be thrown back into children's services, firefighting, to relieve the situation that parents and troubled children were in. How can that person be responsible for scrutinising children's services? I'm also deeply shocked that when asked to comment by the press, that person said that his interest lay in the budget for children's services. That is not what the chair of scrutinising children should be attending to. That is the job of corporate scrutiny. His job, or that person's job, should be to ensure that we're getting the best we can possibly get from that service for all our children. We've just received notification of 5 special case reviews. That is a significant failure, and that is because the foundations for good parenting, the foundations for keeping our children healthy and well have been taken out. Who were they taken out by? The person that has been put in to chair scrutiny. It is an absolute disgrace, and I ask you to rethink that. That of all positions should be chaired by the opposition. And I'm not saying it should be Labour, but it should be the majority. So yes, Labour. But I meant to say it doesn't need to be me, but it should be somebody from the main opposition. It's absolute nonsense to have the architect of failure scrutinising children's services.
Thank you. Councillor Zoe Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to highlight the fact that with the supposed opposition, with the supposed exception of Councillor Ian McCord, there are no opposition councillors chairing scrutiny committees. In order to have good scrutiny, it needs and fulfil that critical friend role. It should not be somebody chairing it from the administration party. We've seen earlier what the challenges are and what the conflicts of interest are when you have members of the administration party in scrutiny, the pressures that they're under. You can see how it's not good scrutiny. It's not going to fulfil that critical friend role. It needs to be the case that you have opposition chairs of scrutiny. You need more than one. And given that this administration focuses a lot on proportionality, where there is an opposition chair of scrutiny, it should not be somebody who represents the smallest opposition group in this council. It should be there should be opposition chairs of scrutiny, and they should be based on a range of chairs from different parties based on the proportionality of the opposition. In no other organisation would it be acceptable to mark your own homework in the way that's being suggested here with scrutiny. The way that scrutiny has been conducted under West Northants has been appalling, and given that scrutiny under the Borough Council won an award for good scrutiny, and the work that we did there, we should be following that, not making scant recommendations, not failing to do that work, and we should be having opposition chair the scrutiny in order to do good scrutiny, in order to be an effective critical friend, and in order to make sure that we deliver the absolute best service for our residents and the people who've elected us as a council as a whole.
Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Harris.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to echo the comments made by Councillor Stone. Last time I looked, on a national statistic basis, I believe we have 51% female versus 49% male. I don't think that statistic has varied much over the last few years, so I do think that's something that really needs to be looked at from a representation point of view. I'd like to make a broader point, if I may. It's specifically related to cabinet member appointments and representation. Could I please urge cabinet members also to remember that they represent people of West Northants? That's all people of West Northants. I've had recent calls for a number of my residents who have written to a number of cabinet members on particular issues and failed to receive responses. I'm not going to direct the finger at anybody. People will understand who know they are. That is not acceptable. You have assistant cabinet members. All of us appreciate that they are broad portfolios. There is much to do, but please at least get one of the assistant cabinet members that you have plenty of to respond accordingly. That only seems fair and appropriate to go back to residents who are raising concerns and issues. With power comes great responsibility. So please, I hope that you hear that message and take that message on board and respond accordingly. Everyone is equal out there. Everybody deserves the right to hear a reply, particularly if they are challenging decisions that have been made that are unpopular. And there are unpopular decisions. I'm not saying they don't need to be made, but you need to justify the case and the cause that sits around them. Finally, I'd just like to say, I suspect, this is a broader point, if I may, the election results last week show that I suspect many members in this room are counting their lucky stars that we didn't have any elections in West Northants 2 weeks ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis Meredith.
Thank you, Chair. Let me take you back to the old county council. When the administration was in control, it went into special measures, virtually bankrupt the county. And one of the suggestions when Councillor Matt Golby was the leader then, and it worked very, very well, was to have the opposition members in charge of scrutiny. And that worked absolutely superb. And it showed you that anything to come up to scrutiny could be corrected. I do say some of the members of the former cabinet are going to be chair of scrutiny, which I think is absolutely out of order, because they sent the council to be bankrupt, and yet they're still being allowed to go on the scrutiny committee, which I don't think should be allowed. Scrutiny should definitely go to opposition councillors, so they can comment on what they do. So it's really, out of order. So I hope you take these points on board. It doesn't always come right that members of the administration should run scrutiny. Far from it.
Thank you. Vice Chairman.
I just wanted to address the issues on equality. I would just add a very brief comment. You have sitting here before you a chair and a vice chair where it's 50-50%. You can't get more equal than that. And of the comment regarding female representation, you have 2 female officers at this table. So I do believe there is equality in with the council. And as for the throwaway comment about the elections, I helped Rugby Association over the elections who retained control. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, you reserved your right to speak, I think.
Speak. I'm on the list and you've ignored it.
Okay, hang on, Councillor Brown. Councillor Sally Beardsworth.
Thank you very much, Chair. I thought you were trying to quiet me. Yes, you won't. When Daniel Stone first took over corporate scrutiny for the first year, we all thought, oh good, it's a woman and a scrutiny chair. Then the next year it was given to Ian McCord, saying we're going to give it to a different party each year. And then I noticed this year it's Ian McCord again. And I know we have to keep Ian sweet. You know, we know that. You know, I mean, but, you know, in the interest of democracy, surely you should keep your promises. And yet again, this is being given to Ian McCord, and I have no against Ian, but it should have been a different party, either the Independent, a different Independent, or the Liberal Democrats for even sake. Now, when I was on the council, I was on the county council for 16 years. I was on adoption panel. I was on lots of things appertaining to children, corporate parenting. I was very interested in looked after children, basically because they have a raw deal and we need to look after them the best we can. Now, I had to stand down from my role. I stood down from election because I couldn't bear to see what was happening. The statutory duty of children leaving care from 16 was taken away. It was taken away by the portfolio holder. So every child that left care at 16 didn't have any support at all until they found out later on that it was a statutory duty, missed that somewhere along the line, and now we're still chasing children that we've lost over the years. We don't know where they are, where they've gone. They could be in prison, they could be homeless, they could be anywhere. What a terrible legacy to leave for our children. These children are let down by their families often because they can't cope with them. They come into care under very difficult situations, and we should, as corporate parents, as all we are, we should look after them properly and make sure that this is done. Now, I know the portfolio holder for children is going to take over the chair of children's scrutiny, and I hope he's learnt lessons from the past. And I do agree with Councillor Stone when he says that it's not the finance we should be looking at. It's the service we give our children, whether the service is working well. It's very, very difficult to actually, when we have children that are costing £20,000 a week to look after because of the care they need, the extreme care. You know, it's very difficult to budget with those. And we should be looking after those children. And I hope that portfolio holder for children is now the chair of children's scrutiny, will actually learn from the lessons he made, the mistakes he made in the past, and we can move forward together as a group. But I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed in the administration, in the fact that you do not share your scrutiny committees like a lot of forward-thinking councils do. Because basically, if you get an opposition councillor on your scrutiny panel, the things are solved on that panel before they come to full council. And therefore, you don't get as many motions or problems because everybody's in agreement. It's something that you should be looking at. You don't have to be afraid of us. We're there to make it better for the people of Northampton, West Northants.
Thank you. Councillor Julie Davenport.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to echo what Councillor Beardsworth said about the scrutiny finance. We can all see what's happening there and why it's happening, but it isn't fair when last annual council we were told it was going to go to different groups. And I assumed that it would go to the Liberal Democrats this time. Obviously, I was wrong. I just wonder how long, you know, this chair, I say apology, is going to last for, because it isn't democratic in the way it was stated it would be. And also to echo what Councillor Harris said. Now, I know a lot of cabinet members work very hard, but the problem is some work harder than others. And it's not the fact that, for me, I haven't had any complaints personally about cabinet members not responding to the public, but my life becomes incredibly frustrating, and I'm so incredibly busy because I will contact someone and they don't come back, and you contact someone again and they don't come back, and you're constantly chasing to get an answer. And even with phone calls, you know, I ring them, they send a text saying, oh, I'll call you back in a meeting, and you never get a call back. Now, I'm here to represent my residents, and I don't know how I'm supposed to do it at times. Like I say, some are much better than others. I know for a fact that Councillor Hallam goes way above and beyond. I can give him a problem, and he will answer me, and not only that, he will set up meetings with relevant officers, so it's ongoing, so that we can resolve that issue, so it doesn't carry on. But I'm not getting it from, and they know who they are, and it's not acceptable to say, I don't like emails or visit, whatever. Please, can we, as councillors, have somewhere we can take complaints to about cabinet members? Because we have, you know, we can with officers, we can go up the chain. But with a cabinet member, they're free to just ignore us. And I thought it was just me. But others have said the same, and they thought it was just them. So whether it's personal or whether it's because whatever, we need people to try a bit harder. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Adam Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. Very, very difficult to sum up much of the debate, so I'll leave the majority for the leader. Just in terms of being an equalities employer, I think if you look at our senior leadership team within the council, all of which was appointed by councillors prior to the establishment of West Northamptonshire Council, we've demonstrated that we're an equalities employer. Sadly, a lot of the female female councillors on the Conservative side have masses of other commitments, and these are capable people that we'd dearly love to consider for senior roles, but they're just not available to us because their talents are being utilised elsewhere. In terms of scrutiny jobs for the opposition, I think it's clear everyone wants a job, everyone wants the money that comes with the job, but ultimately it's for the leader to determine where those appointments are made. I completely agree with Councillor Meredith that opposition scrutiny works superbly at the County Council, but my belief is that that was in large part down to the character of Councillor Scrimshaw. He was superb in that role. He had a massive eye for detail, and we all respected the work that he put in. Just commenting very briefly on Councillor Grant, I would caution members against taking as gospel a quote attributed to a Conservative councillor in the press. There's generally more than meets the eye when one of our councillors is quoted. The leader and I have spoken extensively with Councillor Grant. His focus will be on far more than just the finance of the Children's Trust, but I don't think there's a member in this room, if they've been paying attention, who won't be aware that the finances of the Children's Trust are the albatross around the neck of this council. And so were we to appoint a chair of scrutiny who disregarded that aspect of the Children's Trust, I think that would be cause for concern. So, as I say, Councillor Nunn has an almost impossible job in making these appointments, but I think we have talented and able people who will do good jobs in the year ahead, and I look forward to seeing what we can provide to residents over the next 12 months.
Thank you. Councillor Nunn.
Thank you, Chairman. A lot there. Let's spin through a few of these points. Perhaps a quick one for Councillor Davenport. My advice would be, and the workload does vary enormously amongst Cabinet. I promise you they are all working hard, but the members' inquiries, and I know you put a lot through to members' inquiries, even if you send something to a Cabinet member, by all means CC members' inquiries, because part of their job also is to log inquiries and analyse the nature of those inquiries. Are they all about potholes, or are they all about this, that and the other? So feel free, if you email any of us sitting here, CC members' inquiries as well. Okay. Well, in which case, then we've got the information and we can look at that, and I'll do that then. Okay. What else did we have? Okay, let's come back to Paul. Paul, thank you for the work you've done on your committees in the last 12 months. I've tried so hard to have a discussion. The short discussion we had the other day, frankly, I couldn't get a word in edgeways. It was crammed with threats, insults, and all sorts. I offered a meeting. Unfortunately, you'd forgotten. You obviously had a busy day at work. You couldn't attend that meeting, so we haven't had that discussion. I've offered further discussions. You continue to insist. Reference 6 fields. You made so many comments about wrongdoing. I just need to see what they are. Show the information. I've offered that you go to the monitoring officer if you'd prefer to deal with her. We've had no evidence of it. Even the bit we went on for a long time, this land doesn't need remediation, we eventually got through that one. This whole I'm speaking the truth bit, I don't get it. All I see is actually a bunch of people who are being deceived into the way that you're somehow being shut up. We put our officers and everybody else at your disposal to answer these questions. Be honest with the people who I think you're misleading, Paul. My offer to meet and discuss this remains open. I think, Adam, you've dealt with the equalities issue there. Zoe mentioned scrutiny quality. I think in the last 12 months under Councillor McCord, we have seen an increase in quality. His committee is working well. And the recommendations coming forward from all scrutiny committees, I think we're seeing more recommendations come through to Cabinet. That's probably the main points that I'll respond to that Adam hasn't covered. Happy that we move to the vote, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Order. We now move to the vote on recommendations set out at paragraph 3 on the report. Those please vote now on the recommendations at paragraph 3 of the report. Order, please. Where members are voting. He has. Are we? Order. Members of the public, please. Councillor Clark has spoken already. We have order. Would members of the public wishing to disrupt please depart? Please leave if you wish to. Thank you. Thank you. I think we've all voted now. In favour of the motion, I can declare it carried, 44 to 17, with 3 abstentions. Thank you. Item 9, Councillor Suresh Patel to propose, Councillor Andy Kirkbride to second. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, pleased to propose the report, item number 9, calendar of the meeting year for 23-24. Thank you.
Councillor Kirkbride.
Yeah, it's Kilbride, but it's happy
Kilbride.
to write a second.
Sorry. Right, I have 2 speakers on this item, Councillors Randall and Smith. Councillor Wendy Randall.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a quick point, really. We've all had this calendar well in advance. We all know what committees we're on. I urge you, please, to get them in your diary now so we don't see changes like we've seen in the last year. So if it's the chair that has got a last-minute deal on a holiday, you've got a vice chair. So please, let's leave them as they are, because once they start getting changed, they mess up the rest of our calendars. So put them in your meeting, in your calendar after tonight, leave them as they are. Thank you.
Councillor Zoe Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on that, we've had an extensive debate and I hope a good result earlier on tonight. However, I'd just remind you, having read the Constitution, it says that dates and times of meetings should only be changed when impracticable and the monitoring officer should be advised and speak to the chair if that's going to happen. So I hope that if there are any discussions of changes to meeting dates or meeting times, that goes ahead as planned and as written in the Constitution, and that there is clear evidence and justifiable evidence given for why a meeting time or date may be impracticable.
Thank you. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think we've changed any. There has been one or two Democracy and Standards Committee meeting brought forward because we have to bring the report to the full council. And that's what we are doing in June as well. Supposed to be end of June meeting, but because 28th of June is full council, so we're doing on the 15th of June in order to publish the papers in time and everything. But other than that, I mean, these are the one, and hopefully in November we'll publish the date for following year, so everybody's got that in their diary. Thank you. Move the report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. May we now please vote on the report to accept it or otherwise? Please vote now. Thank you. That is carried. 70 votes in favour, no abstentions, no votes against. Item 10, Honorary Alderman Scheme. Councillor Andre Gonzalez de Savage to propose, Councillor Phil Larritt to second. Councillor Andre Gonzalez de Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my personal congratulations on your new role. I do hope that you have a very adventurous year and some smooth meetings ahead. In terms of item 10 on page 49, it's a recommendation within the report at paragraph 3.1 to cover the WNC Honorary Alderman. This is a scheme that is in line effectively with most other councils, and for information, the criteria for consideration of individuals that obviously would not be during this term, but certainly following the next elections, is within the report on section 6.5 on page 50. For information, we also do host currently and support the established County Alderman scheme, and therefore I move the proposal. And if there are any questions, happy to try and help. In terms of clarification of the documentation, Appendix 1 is the applicable item this evening. Appendix 2 is not applicable here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Phil Larritt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to second the report, and I'll reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. I'm notified of one speaker, Councillor Sally Bearsworth.
Thank you, Chair. I've read the report in full, and there's one bit on 10, privileges. In the event the Council decided to give a badge, robe or emblem to the Honorary Alderman, to wear such a badge, robe or emblem on civic occasions. I am an Honourable Alderman because of the length of service I've done. I've got a nice little piece of paper that says I am, which my husband's put in a frame, and I'm very grateful for. But I don't want an emblem, I don't want gowns, I don't want to cost the council any money at all. I've enjoyed serving the people of Kingsthorpe, and I hope to do it for much, much longer, God willing. But I don't feel that the name in itself is sufficient. I don't get called Alderman. Most of the time I'm called Sally, and that's my first name. It's one I've had for longest, and that's why I go by. So basically, I'm happy apart from taking that piece out. I don't think we need a badge. I don't think we need a gown. I don't think we need all that pomp and ceremony. People know that if they've done service, and they should be proud of the service they've done without having a badge.
Thank you. Councillor Sue Sharps.
I'm happy to support this. I'm inclined to support both badge and gown at cost possibly to the person being giving it if they so wish. So happy to support. I think it's a wonderful idea to mark service. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gonzalez de Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to confirm that clearly the historical significance of this role is very important, and obviously I'm sure that Councillor Bearsworth, Mr. Chairman, values her consideration at the time. It is quite clear that not everyone has to accept it. It's up to them at the end of the day. They can be considered very much for it, and they will be approached accordingly. And I thank Councillor Sue Sharps for her comments as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the proposal.
Sorry, just a quick point. I did raise it yesterday, actually, about the civic group that look at these matters and whether there is no opposition on there at all. And the leader did say that he would look at that. So I just wondered if there could be somebody from the opposition go on to that, please. And also, how far back are we going? You know, are we going back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Because we could have councillors that are served for 12 years going back to 1960 and still living. And, you know, could there be like a standard form so that everybody fills in a form exactly the same way? Because you've got some people that are really, really good at writing in and some that aren't. You know, and we aren't going to know what good things that they did. So just those 2 points, please. And I missed the word robe because I would not want everybody to get a robe either. That seems just a ridiculous idea. Past mayors, you know, usually have a little badge. So I wouldn't be against, you know, past councillor having a little lapel badge. Definitely not a robe. Thank you.
Okay, well, we are bending standing orders slightly tonight already significantly by being generous on the timescales. Councillor Nunn, do you want to be briefly on that point?
Very, very briefly, only just to say, look, when we first started West Northants, it was clear that we really wanted to maintain our civic traditions, and those of us who came from boroughs and districts were very passionate about that. So we suggested that we get a few people together from different areas representing the 3 legacy district councils, and the thing sort of stuck, really. Really now it's a planning committee looking ahead to events, largely fronted, I think, by the chair, certainly chaired by the chairman. I don't see any problem so much with opposition members, but I think the key work for this committee is done in that we have written the book now on 2 years' worth of civic traditions, and we've tried to make sure that we've retained all the key history and events of the 3 different districts, really. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Can we now move to the vote, please, on the single proposition? All right. Because it's you, Dennis, quickly, please.
So if you're already an alderman and you award an alderman to the alderman, what's that alderman going to be called? Double alderman?
The monitoring officer would like to make a clarification.
No members of this council are aldermen. I appreciate that you may have historically been an alderman, but as soon as you become elected as a councillor, you can't be an alderman. You can only be an alderman when you cease to be a councillor. So I apologise for those of you who've lost your alderman status, but that happened on the 1st of April, 2021. Thank you.
Right. Order. Can we now move to the vote? I think we have done that. No, we haven't. Right. We're voting now, and we are coming to 64 in favour, 4 against, 2 abstentions. There are no urgent items. I repeat my invitation to join for a glass of something refreshing in Judges' Lodgings, where a presentation will be made to Helen Gonzalez de Savage. I hope many of you possible who can walk across the street for 10 minutes for that purpose. Thank you very much. Close the meeting.